joining us now with his thoughts on the Jena 6 event that is taking place not only in Louisiana, but also in Washington and obviously across the country and even across the globe. We'd like to introduce now Roland Martin, who is a CNN special contributor. He also has a nationally syndicated column and a Chicago-based radio show, which I understand, Roland, you actually did out of Atlanta today.
Yep. Broadcast all 3 hours. The entire show blew everything else out of the water.
All right.
Because the story is so huge.
It is an absolutely huge story. But I want to get the reaction from the callers today. What are people saying about what's taken place in Jena?
Well, folks are very emotional because they saw the number of people, as you see, who were there. We actually talked to people. There was a charter school from Chicago where they took 9 kids down. They were stuck in Alexandria, Louisiana, because there's so many people they wouldn't let buses in. And so they said it was so important to talk to a 10th grader who was on the bus. And she said it was vitally important because she said in Chicago, she sees injustice going on in terms of the treatment of black teens compared to white teens. And so you have all of that. People were saying that, look, they certainly believe in the rule of law. They believe that if you did something and you were convicted, that there should be a penalty. But the question wasn't necessarily a penalty, no penalty. It was what is excessive, what is over the top. And also when you begin to make the apples to apples comparison. That's really what the issue is. I think what we've done is too often.
So you don't feel that this is a black and white issue per se?
No, there's no doubt that it is a black and white issue in terms of how it came down. For instance, yesterday, Reed Walters, the district attorney, when he had a news conference standing next to the mother as well as the white teen who was beaten, what was the image? Everybody who was standing behind the DA was white. So then you have other images where everyone standing behind other activists are black. White and black, it's actually there.
But you know what, let's just stop for a second, Roland. Let's really go back and look at the details in this case.
The timeline.
Let's look at the timeline. Let's look at the timeline. What exactly happened to Justin Barker? Why is this more than just a black and white issue?
Because first of all, you can't necessarily start with Justin Barker. You got to go right before. There was an incident where at this high school, historically, there was a huge shade tree. Traditionally, white students were allowed to sit under the shade tree. That was their spot. Black students couldn't. Black students went to the principal and said, hey, we want to sit under the tree. Can we? 2007, can we sit under the tree? He said, of course you can. They sat under the tree. The next day, 3 nooses were hanging from the tree. We know what nooses mean, lynching, what that signal was. And so again, the principal suspended the students. The school board later overturns that decision.
Why wasn't that a hate crime?
Well, because in order to meet the definition of the law for hate crime, the U.S. attorney in that case explained in terms of what isn't a hate crime. And so it's a matter of what the law says, who can be prosecuted under it in terms of was a crime committed. Is the hanging of a noose a crime? You may say it's intimidation. It's all based upon who's actually prosecuting, and that's really what it boils down to.
All right, so fast forward, what happens next?
So then there was a fight between some white teens and a black teen, okay? Fight, no one charged. Then you had the fight.
How badly beaten was the black teen?
Well, first of all, we haven't really, that really hasn't even been covered because that fight has been pretty much ignored.
Okay.
So who is that team? Who are the 3 involved? No charges there. Then you had the fight with the 6 black teens and then the white teen. Now, we don't know what led to the fight. Now, of course, Kira Phillips in her report on CNN tonight, Judgment in Jena, looks into every one of those details to explain what took place. Was the fight provoked? Did Justin Barker taunt these teens? And what we've heard is Justin and his folks have said, no, he didn't taunt him. Others have said the N-word was being used. That's what led to the fight. So here's this fight, 16 involved. They beat Justin. Justin's knocked unconscious, goes to the hospital, face is bruised, eyes bruised. He gets released from the hospital same day, goes to a ring ceremony at the high school same night. Okay. Then, of course, all of a sudden, 16s are charged with attempted murder. That is what kicked all this off.
Okay.
What kicked this off was not, 16's in trouble. Look, black teens get arrested every single day for any number of things. You can go to any city in America. But what caused the reaction was, wait a minute, a school fight led to attempted murder charges. That's what led to it. And then once people began to look into it, all of a sudden it was a case of, wow, it picks up. You might remember the story out of Texas several months ago where there was a black teen who was accused of pushing a hall monitor down. That's what literally, if I sat here and pushed you down, this young woman was sentenced to 20 years in jail, where by a judge in this city in Texas, where a white teen was burned down her parents' home. She didn't go to jail.
Right.
And so that's
really
why people say
what you're saying here,
justice systems.
Exactly. There are two justice systems. But as we look at these pictures, we look at all these people, you know, kind of converging here in Jena, Louisiana, also in Washington, also across the United States. There's so many people, like you said, are emotional. Don't you kind of feel like this continues to drive the racial divide? Well,
it drives the racial divide if we say, is the issue black and white? The question here is not, well, let's get someone off. The question is there an equal justice system? When you have the scales of justice, they're supposed to be equal. But there are many people in Jena, in Chicago, in Oakland, in Houston, in D.C. who feels as if, no, it's not that. And so you have that. And so what's interesting is we have O.J. going on right now. And you have people who are still angry 13 years later because they're saying O.J. got off. He bought his way out. How they found that to be an unequal, unjust legal system because he got off. But there are African Americans who are saying we see that every single day. And so again, this is what people are saying, that this is a microcosm of America, that there are Jena cases happening every day in America.
But honestly, what is this going to solve? So we see Jesse Jackson, so we see Al Sharpton, so we see Mostaf, so we see all of these celebrities attending these functions. What is it going to solve?
First of all, it's not just about them, because they're not the ones who are even leading this. This was started by grassroots leaders. That's the reality. Now, we've been reporting, oh, is Reverend Sharpton's march, Reverend Jackson's march? It's not. What this will lead to is that, first of all, the DA has consistently dropped the charges from one to the next level, because he understands that, wait a minute, a light is now being shined on it. What this does is causes people to say, let's shine a light on what some consider to be an unjust system. We have people in this country, the students at Northwestern University have done reporting that are freed people from death row who were going to be put to death. DNA has freed people who have been put in jail for 20 years who didn't commit the crime. And so what this says is, America, you might, whether it's white America, black America, whatever, you might think that the justice system is fair, but you don't think it's fair when it necessarily might affect your household. And that's what they're saying, that look at the system. They're not saying get rid of the system. They're not saying that we don't believe in the rule of law. What they're saying is it should be equal, it should be fair, it should be just.
Yeah, no, I hear you absolutely. I wanted to share an email that we've received from one of our viewers. People obviously very outspoken when it comes to what's happening in Jena, Louisiana today. This is from Ayana Pania, who says, we were just discussing the Jena 6 issue in my African American Studies class yesterday. As we look at the U.S. today, we realize that slavery has never left. She goes on to say it has gone from chains to segregation. And now this incident, they say U.S. is the best place to have pride. But look at how unfair it is. You know, I'm going to go ahead and stop there, Roland. And I really want to talk to you now about why this is happening in Jena, Louisiana. Why is this happening
because
right
first
now?
of all, Jena is
It's 2007.
Well,
why is this happening?
2900. And here's the perfect example to this. Our own Kira Phillips did several interviews with whites in Jena. And this is what came out of their mouths. There are no racial issues here in Jena. We have no problem with the colors.
This is Jena, Louisiana. How many white people do we see in this crowd right now?
Well, first of all, the town is 2,900 people, 85% white, 12% black.
So where are they? I want you to point them out.
Well, no, there are a few whites in the crowd. We've seen them all throughout the day. And that's the point that I've also raised, that if this is a question of justice, not race, justice, then you would think that whites would also be expressing their outrage. Now, I raised the point yesterday on CNN. People have been emailing me and say, hey, I'm equally outraged. I've given to the Legal Defense Fund. David Boyd yesterday gave $10,000 to the Defense Fund. But that's also what it points to. Now, again, I want to use OJ. Imagine, look at the reaction that whites had to OJ. Angry, it was unjust, it was unfair. The question is, do those same people believe that charging 6 teens with a school fight with attempted murder, is that excessive? Is that unjust? Not saying let them off, but is it unjust? And that's precisely the point. Don't sit here and just get mad when, well, that was OJ. No, say, wait a minute. Let's check out this legal justice system we have. Let's examine that. That's what the issue is. So I would have liked to see more whites, more Asians, more Hispanics, because, again, until it comes into our neighborhood or our backyard or our living room, then we say, well, you know, it's really not a big deal until it affects us personally.
No, that's a good point. Roland, I understand also on your website that you have put up a link to the Jena 6 Defense Fund. Is that correct?
Yeah, because a lot of people listen to my radio show. You know, people called in. They said, you know, here's the P.O. box, here's the phone number, and it was like, okay, they want me to repeat it every 5 minutes. Okay, look, guys, go to the website. It's right there. I can't repeat it because we got to move on to a new topic. So basically, we use the website as a way to simply pass information. We also have,
what is the web address?
RolandSMartin.com.
All right, Roland Martin is a special contributor here at CNN. Thank you so much,
Appreciate
Roland.
it.
It's always nice to see you.
Anytime.